Nirvana fallacy. Perfect solution fallacy. Solutions to problems are rejected because they are not perfect. Package deal. Treating essentially dissimilar concepts as though they were essentially similar. Prosecutor's fallacy. A low probability of false matches does not mean a low probability of some false match being found. Proving too much. An argument that results in an overly generalized conclusion, arguing that drinking alcohol is bad because in some instances it has led to spousal or child abuse. Psychologist fallacy. An observer presupposes the objectivity of their own perspective when analyzing a behavioral event. Reification, or the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. Treating an abstract belief or hypothetical construct as if they were concrete, real event or physical entity. Slippery slope, thin edge of the wedge, camel's nose. Asserting that a proposed relatively small first action will inevitably lead to a chain of related events resulting in a significant and negative event and therefore should not be permitted. Improper premise based fallacies. Begging the question. Petitio principii. Using the conclusion of the argument is support of itself in a premise. Saying that smoking cigarettes is deadly because cigarettes can kill you. Something that kills is deadly. Then circular reasoning. Circulus in demonstrando. The reasoner begins with what they are trying to end up with. All bachelors are unmarried males. Fallacy of many questions. Complex questions. Fallacy of presumptions. Presuppositions. Loaded question. Someone asks a question about presupposes something that has not been proven or accepted by all the people involved. This fallacy is often used rhetorically so that the question limits direct replies to those that serve the questioner's agenda. For example, have you or have you not stopped beating your wife? Now, faulty generalization. Reaching a conclusion from weak premises. First is accident. An exception to a generalization is ignored. Then cherry picking, suppressed evidence, incomplete evidence, argument by half-truth, fallacy of exclusion, card stacking, slanting, using individual cases or data to confirm that a particular position while ignoring related cases or data that may be contradicted to that position. False analogy. An argument by analogy in which the analogy is poorly suited. Hasty generalization, fallacy of insufficient statistics, fallacy of insufficient sample, fallacy of the lonely fact, hasty induction. Secundum quid, converse accident, jumping to conclusions, basing a broad conclusion on a small or unrepresentative sample. Argument from anecdote, a fallacy where anecdotal evidence is presented as an argument without any other contributory evidence or reasoning. Inductive fallacy, a more general name for a class of fallacies including hasty generalization and its relatives. A fallacy of induction happens when a conclusion is drawn from premises that only lightly support it. Misleading vividness involves describing an occurrence in vivid details, even if it is an exceptional occurrence, to convince someone that it is more important. This also relies on the appeal to emotion fallacy. Now, questionable cause. It is a general type of error with many variants. Its primary basis is the confusion of association with causation, either by inappropriately deducing or rejecting causation or a broader failure to properly investigate the cause of an observed effect. Fallacy of the single cause. Causal oversimplification. It is assumed that there is one simple cause of an outcome when it is in reality it may have been caused by a number of only jointly sufficient causes. Fugitive fallacy. Outcomes are asserted to have been caused by the malfeasance of decision makers, magical thinking, fallacious attribution of causal relationships between actions and events. In anthropology, it refers primarily to cultural beliefs that ritual, prayer, sacrifice, and taboos will produce specific supernatural consequences. In psychology, it refers to an irrational belief that thoughts by themselves can affect the world or that thinking something corresponds with doing it. Now, statistical fallacies. So, regression fallacy, ascribe cause when none exist. Gambler's fallacy, the incorrect belief that separate independent events can affect the likelihood of another random event. If a fair coin lands on head 10 times in a row, the belief that it is due to the number of times it had previously landed on tails is incorrect. P-hacking, belief in the significance of result, not realizing that multiple comparisons or experiments have been run and only the most significant were published. Sunk cost fallacy, refusal to leave a situation because you have already put large amount of time or effort into it. For example, trying to jump over a wall you physically cannot jump over because you have already spent an hour trying to jump. Red herring fallacies. A red herring fallacy, one of the main subtypes of fallacy of relevance, is an error in logic where a proposition is or is intended to be misleading in order to make irrelevant or false inferences. This includes any logical inference based on fake arguments, intended to replace the lack of real arguments or to replace implicitly the subject of the discussion. Red herring, introducing a second argument in response to the first argument that is irrelevant and draws attention away from the original topic. For example, saying, if you want to complain about the dishes I leave in the sink, what about dirty clothes you leave in the bathroom? In jury trial, this is known as Chewbacca defense. In political strategy, it is called dead cat strategy. Ad hominem, under the red herring, attacking the arguer instead of the argument. Note that ad hominem can also refer to the dialectical strategy of arguing on the basis of the opponent's own commitments. Then appeal to authority. An assertion is deemed true because of the position or authority of the person asserting it. Appeal to consequences. The conclusion is supported by a premise that asserts positive or negative consequences from some course of action in an attempt to distract from the initial discussion. Appeal to emotion. Manipulating the emotions of the listener rather than using valid reasoning to obtain common agreement. Appeal to nature. Judgment is based solely on whether the subject of judgment is natural or unnatural, also called naturalistic fallacy. Appeal to novelty. A proposal is claimed to be superior or better solely because it is new or modern. Appeal to poverty. Supporting a conclusion because the arguer is poor or refuting because the arguer is wealthy. Appeal to tradition. A conclusion supported solely because it has been held to be true. Argumentum ad baculum. Appeal to the stick, force, or appeal to threat. An argument made through coercion or threats of force to support position. Argumentum ad populum. Appeal to the widespread belief, bandwagon argument, appeal to the majority, appeal to the people. A proposition is claimed to be true or good solely because a majority or many people believe it to be so. Association fallacy. Guilt by association and honor by association. Arguing that because two things share or are implied to share some property, they are the same. Logic chopping fallacy. Nitpicking, trivial objections, focusing on trivial details of an argument rather than the main point of the argumentation. Chronological snobbery. A thesis is deemed incorrect because it was commonly held when something else, known to be false, was also commonly held. Genetic fallacy. A conclusion is suggested based solely on something or someone's origin rather than its current meaning or context. Moralistic fallacy. Inferring factual conclusions from evaluative premises in violation of fact value distinction. Straw man fallacy. Refuting an argument different from the one actually under discussion while not recognizing or acknowledging the distinction. Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Improperly asserting a cause to explain a cluster of data. Two wrongs make a right, assuming that if one wrong is committed, another wrong will rectify it. Vacuous truth. A claim that is technically true but meaningless in the form no A in B has C, where there is no A in B. For example, claiming that no mobile phones in the room are on when there are no mobile phones in the room. So these were the fallacies. Let's hear something else tomorrow. Bye bye.